Alexander Isak to Liverpool, easy?
Nothing's ever easy when you're talking a Premier League record, and that's what it would have to be should Newcastle decide to sell their star man. A lot of people will be saying, well, Liverpool have lost Luis Diaz, played as a false nine. They've lost Darwin Nunez as a nine. They've only got Hugo Ekitike with no Premier League experience. They need Premier League experience. They're going to go and get Alexander Isak. Well, that's a simple 2 + 2 = 4, but this is far from simple maths. We know that Liverpool want flexibility and versatility in the next attacking signing that they bring into the football club. It would be safe to say they'd like to add to their forward areas, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go and get someone who plays just as a number 9. Luis Diaz played as a left-sided player, played as a false 9, played as a 10, could play on the right. He brought versatility, which is something that Arne Slot wants for that Liverpool side. He doesn't really want players that can play one position and one position only, particularly in those attacking areas. We know that they are interested in players that play down that left-hand side. They've been linked with the likes of Rodrigo, but then you look at the way that they've played over pre-season, and you look at the young 16-year-old, Rio Ungamoa, and look how good he's been. Yeah. Would they want to go and spend 90 million euros on a player that's going to stifle and stop his development? Absolutely not. Liverpool want young players from the academy to go into that first team. They want a clear pathway. So again, that rules out signing someone who would be considered just a left-sided player. Also, Arne Slot's comfortable with playing 2 10s. He did it in February last year against Manchester City. Szoboszlai and Jones played as 2 10s. No 9 on the pitch. They won 2-0 away from home. So therefore, when you've got people like Florian Wirtz and Dominik Szoboszlai and Hugo Ekitike, who can play on his own or play with someone else, you've got players there that can all fit into that fluid system.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt, Mark, but where does all this leave Isak? Are we in a situation where Isak, unhappy at a club who've basically ostracised him of late, is he going to be stuck at Newcastle?
Now, ostracised based on his actions. So I would say, like, Alexander Isak hasn't been forced out of the fold because they don't want him. He's done things that have made the hierarchy at Newcastle say, well, actually, if that's the way you're going to act, then we need to remind you that this football club is bigger than you and you need to fall in line and do what we want. Otherwise, you're not going to be a part of it.
So if he'd have handled it better over the last few weeks, you'd have thought that maybe Eddie Howe would have played him in the opening games. But because of how it's happened, he's got no choice but just to leave him out.
Absolutely. I think
this is apparently £150 million worth of footballer who's not going to be playing.
And whose fault's that? Do Newcastle want Alexander Isak in the training
Newcastle
camp?
Don't win if he doesn't play, do they? I mean, I don't mean win games. I mean, they don't win this situation if a player of that quality isn't in their starting lineup.
But also, there's a lot of other talented players at Newcastle United. There's other players that can play as a number 9. They've got a lot of options. They've signed Anthony Elanga, so they've got that option which they didn't have last season. Anthony Gordon's played as a false 9. Harvey Barnes there. So they've got options. Will Asula, maybe this could be his moment. What happens if Will Asula plays in that first game and he scores 2 goals? Alex who? Things change so quickly in football. I think if Alexander Isak had handled this situation differently, like other players have done, head down, train hard, ignore the noise, wait for the club to pay what your ownership club wants, then you'll get your move. He's gone about it in a different way. There's no right or wrong way here. He'll be advised by his representatives that say, actually, this is the way we need to deal with this situation. We need to engineer something a little bit here, and that means you've got to do what we say, and that means you don't turn up to training, or you go and do this, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a situation that can change. Eddie Howe's stance will be, I want you in my team, I want you with a group, I want you training, and I want you involved, full stop. And to do that, this is what you need to do. But there has to be an example made where players know at Newcastle, you cannot just agitate for a move and get your way. Yeah. You have to do it the right way.
So it's a message to the whole squad, not just Isak.
I think so.
All right, listen, 8 days until the football season starts. Of course, the deadline day is September 1st. Michael, first, do you think come September 2nd, Alexander Isak is wearing the black and white of Newcastle?
No.
You don't?
No.
Gone to Liverpool?
I think so, because I think it's got to that stage where I think Newcastle will bring someone in.
What do you think, Mark?
My gut feeling is no. I think he'll still be at Newcastle United. I just think, and this has always been their stance, A, they don't want to sell. B, we'll only sell if we have a top-class Champions League ready striker in the building, signed up and ready to go. That's when we may consider an offer, if it's what we accept. And right now, do they have a replacement? No. Is there one out there? Possibly. So therefore, is a deal going to happen? Looks unlikely. But this is a transfer window and anything's possible.
Anything, but Mark says he doesn't think Newcastle want to sell. Michael, the Darwin Nunez deal agreed. Is that going to go through? Because I gather the player hasn't said yes or no yet.
He's been given permission to finalise the move. Now, there were reports earlier in the summer that he wanted to move on to be a first-team regular somewhere. We told yesterday they'd reached an agreement for a fixed fee of 46.2 million plus add-ons. That would take the fee to 56.6 million pounds if he does go to Al Hilal. Now, there's much been mentioned about Liverpool's signings and how much they've spent. But if that does go through, that's Nunez at the door for around 50 million and Luis Diaz, let's not forget, has left for Bayern Munich as well. So there have been some outgoings as well as the incomings as well.
Indeed.
You could say Jarrell Quansah was there, 34 million.
Yeah.
Trent Alexander-Arnold, 10 million. Nat Phillips.
For a month
as well. Huge, amazing, astonishing business, really, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So therefore, Liverpool, whilst yes, they have spent a lot of money, their net spend now, off the back of Nunez, should he go to the Saudi Pro League, would be almost minuscule by some standards. I don't mean to be belittling of huge sums of money, but when you look at what teams spend, they've actually been really clever and really creative, and that's what's amazing. Another player potentially could head out the door. Ben Doak, we'll talk about him later in the show. More PSR, 100% profit.
Is there a possibility, Michael, that Isak starts the season wearing the black and white of Newcastle and plays first game?
If you're asking for me, I don't think so, because he's not featured with his teammates. He hasn't been part on pre-season tour. There's this talk of a minor injury, and we've got nearly just over a week to go. Look, they would love to have him. I can't see him, can you?
I can't see him playing. You know, you have
but
to
still being at the club, though.
Possibly still at the club. I don't think he'll start the game.
Yeah, I think Newcastle United won't sanction a move for Alexander Isak to any other club in the world unless they have what they feel is a top-class Champions League-ready striker to start games. You have to remember, they're actually in the market for a striker anyway because of the departure of Callum Wilson. So therefore, they're one striker light because of him. Alexander Isak not with that Eddie Howe first-team squad at the moment, so therefore, technically, they're two strikers light. And they're not going to suddenly just sell, even if the offer was huge, just to accept the money. They have to leave themselves in a position where they feel they are stronger at the start of the season than they were when they finished last season. And they won silverware and got into the Champions League. So therefore, any thought of Alexander Isak going without a replacement is silly. And really, to answer what Michael said, if people think that Alexander Isak is going to walk straight back into that first team and play that first game, I think they'd be naive. Eddie Howe has said he has to earn the right to train with his teammates. He has to earn the right to be in that starting 11. And right now, he's not amongst it. So therefore, you'd be really surprised if he suddenly was to start games.
And Eddie Howe will also know as well, when Newcastle qualified for the Champions League last time, as much as the fans enjoyed it, the league form was affected as well, and they missed out narrowly on Europe for the season after, though, didn't they? So they do need those extra bodies. All these clubs in Europe are going to need extra players.
It's a huge challenge because suddenly they've got 8 extra games in the Champions League. That could be 10, 12, 14, 16, depending on their progress. If they want to go and win the FA Cup and the League Cup, as they've already done and proven they want to do, that could add another 6, 8, 9 games, depending on how much they progress as well in those competitions collectively. And to do that, to play the intensity of football that Eddie Howe wants to play, you need strength in depth. You need players that can be robust and play a number of games. So therefore, they would be a little bit light anyway. They need to replace Longstaff. So he's another midfielder they need to try and find. We know that they're in the market for a centre-back. They have made 2 brilliant signings. I think 2 players that will definitely challenge that first 11, Anthony Elanga and Aaron Ramsdale. So they are making good progress. It's just a lot slower than Eddie Howe would like.
Another player on the way out, money coming in.
Yeah, Darwin Nunez on his way to the Saudi Pro League. Look, with Al Hilal, we told you yesterday that agreement was reached with a fee of 46.2 million. I think it's very popular with Liverpool supporters. They know how vocal he is when he's on the bench with Liverpool when he goes, but maybe there's that inconsistency there why Liverpool would always maybe consider a move. That people keep saying to me, look, Liverpool spent a lot of money, but they'll be getting out a player for 46.2 million. Luis Diaz.
So that's add-ons.
With the add-ons rising, it'll be 56.6. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
And Luis Diaz gone as well, so there will be changes in that forward line.
What now for Liverpool then? What do they do next?
It's a multi-million-dollar question, and I know where you're leading me, Mike, to a certain AI. But yeah, as far as Liverpool are concerned, they're in the market for attack-minded players because they need to replace Luis Diaz, they need to replace Darwin Nunez. So therefore, they are looking at potential players that can fill those voids. But what Arne Slot wants is versatility and flexibility in those attacking signings that they could still make. You look at that Liverpool squad, they have one number 9, Hugo Ekitike. That's it. Whereas when you look at what they had last season, they had Nunez, they had Jota, they had another player, number 9, escapes me right now.
Nunez, Jota,
and who else has gone? There's third one.
Diaz has gone.
Diaz, yeah. He played as a false 9 as well. So they've lost their options. So that's where they need to go into this window and have options. I want to point you out to one game. Back in February, you won't like me saying this, Liverpool went to the Etihad and won 2-0. They didn't play with you started it at the beginning of the show. You came for me and Michael. We're just coming back. They went to the Etihad, won 2-0. They did it without playing a number 9. Arne Slot is very comfortable with playing 2 10s and 2 wingers. Doesn't necessarily always have to have a number 9 playing for him. He's comfortable by playing 2 10s. On that day, it was Dominic Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones that played as the 2 10s for Liverpool. So therefore, saying they're going out into the market to find a number 9 because they've sold Nunez doesn't necessarily mean they're going to find a number 9. They could be looking for someone who can play multiple roles in that attack. One other thing I just want to say on the Liverpool situation. Rio Ngumoa, 16 years old, outstanding talent. Do Liverpool want to go and sign a left-sided player that stops the progression and development of someone who could be a superstar? And we've seen that in pre-season. No, they want to sign players that are versatile and flexible, and that's key. Also in the market for a centre-back. So I can see 2 more players going into Liverpool.
Right, because you had to go at me, I'm going to do breaking news. I'm going to do your job.